Luke Sayers AM, pleasure speaking with you as part of our interview series. I thought we'd open our conversation with the current environment. Take me through some of the prevailing themes that you're seeing in the economy at the moment.
Yeah, look, good morning. Well, it's the day after Melbourne Cup here in Melbourne, and it's actually quite a buoyant sort of atmosphere. And so from an economical perspective, I'm hearing and seeing that there's going to be a bit of a boom through to Christmas. The country is opening up. There is good momentum as far as a lot of people looking at acquisitions and or divestments and or investments. And so as far as sort of money looking to change hands at the moment, it's pretty bullish. And so from my perspective, what I'm hearing and seeing is I think we're going to run pretty hard to Christmas. I think people will have a good break over Christmas, and then I think that momentum will continue when we come back in January. So pretty optimistic.
And then you've had exposure to all different types of businesses, various scales and capacities over the many decades that you've been involved. Tell me, what are the major issues that corporate Australia faces as we look towards next year?
It's hard to sort of generalise because, you know, there's so many different industries here in Australia and different sizes of organisations, but maybe a few themes. First off, growth. How does the top end of corporate Australia really drive an increase in revenue and an increase in their organisation? Growth is not easy to do in a sort of saturated country like Australia, and so are the very biggest organisations in Australia sort of looking to go offshore? Are they getting into the Asia Pacific sort of growth opportunities? How do they find growth? And you can either do that by kind of geographical expansion and or product or capability kind of expansion. And so those organisations have lowered the costs through the pandemic. They've got very low on the cost curve. Now that we're opening up, how do they grow? And how do they grow sustainably? Probably then to take us to maybe the private sort of segment here in Australia rather than the listed segment. You know, there's a great amount of sort of start-up, scale-up sort of activity happening here in Australia at the moment. Not all tech, but a lot tech fueled. I think through the pandemic, this has given a lot of opportunity to those organisations that are building something fresh from the ground up. Blank sheet of paper, plenty of capital here in Australia to invest in start-up and or scale-up activities, and those organisations are pushing hard towards, you know, growing their business, proving out their business model, and ultimately either looking at trade sale and or a listing on the IPO and from an IPO perspective. So I think those organisations are quite buoyed for the future as well. So different things depending on industry and also sort of size and scale of the company.
And then in terms of the growth industries of the future, what are you seeing are the major drivers for growth moving forward? If
you were kind of sitting back and sort of saying, okay, well, what industries over the next 3 to 5 years are going to kind of outperform? I get very excited by health and I get very excited by tech. And so if you're on sort of a health play, a health industry, whether that be retirement homes, aged care homes, anything that really plays in that sort of health spectre, and you're integrating technology for the benefit of the patient in the health context, I think that's a really, really sweet spot. The second one is tech, whether it be you know, fintech, whether it be health tech, whether it be energy tech and the move to green and everything that's going to do. So I'd kind of play in and around health. I'd kind of play in and around tech. And probably if I was to push for a third, you know, 2050 will be on us quickly. Everyone's moving towards what a kind of a net zero will look like. Business has a role to play in that. It's not just government policy. And so every organisation here in Australia will be looking at, okay, well, what does this mean to my organisation and how do I pivot and change such that I can do what I need to do from that regard?
Speaking of the pandemic, we're sitting in the offices of Sayers Group here this morning. Of course, you launched your own business, I think unofficially at maybe mid last year, in June, July last year, and then officially in February of this year. What was going through your mind and how's the business grown?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting time to launch a startup, but what was I thinking? I was thinking there was a new model here of kind of fusing investment capability, advisory and services capability, and platform capability together. And so we've come up with a model that's kind of, it's not PE, it's not VC, it's not professional services, it's not wealth management, it's a combination of advisory and investment capability. And, you know, we'll obviously provide services to our clients, but we'll also look to take equity with those clients that we think that's the right answer. And so it's a quite a unique, different model here. What was I thinking? I was excited, and I was also, you know, unsure and vulnerable, and, you know, lots of concerns and all of those emotions. And so in any one day, I kind of go from joyous and positive to, oh gosh, and worried. But, you know, look, the pandemic was hard, but it also gave us a great opportunity not to get distracted, to stay very focused from the kitchen bench and make sure that we do all the things that we needed to do infrastructure-wise, you know, absolutely right. And so getting the governance structures in place, getting the investment structures in place, getting a financial services licence, getting ourselves an office, getting ourselves kind of set up such that we could open the door and then look to delight our clients sort of going forward. We were able to get all those sort of in the ground things right, rather than be distracted trying to run around and meet clients and bring clients on board, which is the positive that we've definitely taken out of it.
And how different is it launching your own business, having come from being the Chief Executive Officer of PwC? How much more hands-on do you have to be when you're launching and building this business?
Yeah, look, it's on the one hand incredibly liberating, because when you're a part of a large organisation, or whether that be local or whether it be global, there are a lot of boundaries around you as to what you can and can't do, and that's right for that sort of context and those sort of organisations. Here, with a blank sheet of paper, there just isn't those boundaries. You've got to create those boundaries, and you've got to put them sort of around you and the organisation to make sure that you get the trade-off between risk and reward right. What does it mean for my role? My role on any one day can be answering the front door here at the office, through to the big decisions of, do we put a coffee machine in the canteen, through to dealing with the highest levels of government and or corporate Australia. And so you don't have teams of people and infrastructure to sort of lean on. You probably outsource more of those sorts of things rather than insource in a big organisation, and you're able to kind of, you know, flex up or flex down depending on what the issue is that you're trying to solve. But yeah, my day is very varied.
And then in terms of culture, how do you go about building culture? And I think you've got about 90 or 95 staff at last count. What are the benefits of having staff come across from a whole range of different companies and industries?
If there's been one part of the pandemic that has kind of been the most difficult to kind of traverse, it's been building kind of purpose and culture and values and the right vibe and energy with the team. We have kind of scaled up quickly, which, you know, I'm very sort of grateful for those clients that have backed us in and driven that demand to bring such a large number of people on so quickly. But getting them together and building the culture when you can't physically get together has been hard. And so, you know, we have sort of different people from different industries and different organisations, which I think is a real positive thing. And so, you know, we've got people from Goldman's, we've got people from Macquarie, we've got people from JB Weir, we've got people from Credit Suisse, we've got people from PwC, we've got people from Deloitte, we've got people from government. You know, it's a very varied group. And now it's about getting all of those sort of tribes, if you will, to work collaboratively. with the people from the other organisations and not just resort to the people that they know to do projects with them and so on and so forth. And so we've tried to sort of every week do a number of sort of virtual things to just get people engaging and talking and collaborating such that we bust down those silos. Now that we're back open for business, I think that will just subside over time. But that's been a difficult one as we create the Sayers culture and the Sayers set of values, which are fundamentally different to sort of those large organisational sort of cultures that all of us have come from.
And then reflecting on conversations that you've had with some of your clients recently and that the team have had, what are the major issues for some of these businesses or some of these clients that you're dealing with at the moment? Is it a case of staff shortages, vaccination, how they're going to grow, mergers and acquisitions? What are they saying to you are the hurdles that they're facing?
Yeah, so look, I mean, there's a couple of themes coming out. One is the larger the organisation, the more they are sort of leaning into, you know, what does digital disruption, what does technology disruption do to my business model? And so through this pandemic, the larger organisations have taken a lot of heads out and taken a lot of cost out. Quite rightly, they're saying, okay, now that we're back up and going again, is it right to just add the heads back on and go back to doing it the way that we kind of did it before? Or is there smarter and cheaper ways through using technology to change the model? And so the large organisations are looking at various platforms and or technology implementations to change the way in which they maybe do customer service, how they do order fulfilment, how they do compliance and regulation. And so there's various functions that those big organisations are now looking to tech to take advantage, because the worst thing that could happen is they just basically add a whole bunch of heads back on and they go back to doing it how they did prior to the pandemic. That's a missed opportunity. As far as the smaller guys, you know, as private client market is buzzing with M&A activity, acquisitions, disposals, bolt-ons, investments, a lot of scale-ups pushing towards IPO, and a lot of organisations just looking to kind of accelerate the rise that's going to come out of this post-pandemic period. So it's an exciting time for both sort of ends of the market, if you will.
You mentioned in an article recently that Australia needs to be far more aggressive with investment in new and emerging technology. The Sayers Group has been an active investor in a number of businesses, including, I think, Melbourne-based Alinium Automation at the beginning of this year or last year it might have been. Take me through how you're seeing investment in the local technology space.
Yeah, look, I think it's getting better, and I actually think the pandemic has helped accelerate some of that, because more and more people are seeing that organisations are going to leverage the opportunity that the pandemic has caused to change the way in which they do what they do. So I've definitely seen over the last kind of 3, 6, 9 months an upward flow of organisations looking to accelerate sort of scale up and start up tech-based organisations. And I think that will continue. I think Australians have invested a lot into the US, have invested a lot into Israel, have invested some into Australian-based technology startups, but I think that's getting more and more pronounced, and long may it continue, because we have some awesome tech entrepreneurs in this country, some awesome tech organisations that are continuing to build momentum, and we should absolutely do the right thing and get in behind them and really continue to grow with them.
I also want to ask you about Sayers Wealth. Which asset classes or divisions are you seeing the most opportunity for investment in general terms at the moment?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's for anybody taking wealth advice, you want to balance your portfolio. So you don't want to be overs too much in any one play. You want to make sure that you balance your portfolio between Australian listed and also global listed. And a lot of Australian wealth providers, we believe, are too focused on Australian equities and are missing the opportunities that having some exposure to global equities may bring. And so from an overall perspective, a balance between Australian listed and global listed is important. The other piece that we're very much seeing is that more and more people are looking for some exposure to private opportunities as opposed to just publicly listed tradable sort of opportunities. And so that is where, you know, Sayers is able to bring proprietary deals and proprietary access to a large number of private deals, which again, you don't want to be overweight just all on sort of private deals, but everybody should have a space within the portfolio for a number of private deals that may be appealing based on their risk profile. The third one I'd call out is impact investment and ESG. There's definitely a trend that as Australia understands, and especially also with 2050 and what the country sort of signed up to there, more and more investors are looking for, again, a piece of the portfolio to have exposure to those organisations. So they'd be three themes that I'd call out.
And before we move on, there's been some media commentary and articles written about the growth of Sayers Group and whether it's met its targets that were originally forecast, or whether there's more personnel or less personnel than that was outlined. What's the goal of the business over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years?
A lot of people seem to want to put targets and so on and so forth. You know, we've got some internal sort of targets that we're shooting for and aspiring for. We're in front of those internal targets at the end of month 4 in our first full fiscal year, and we've got a business plan that kind of pushes us up, you know, towards 50 million and then 100 million, and then, you know, we do want to sort of grow from there. But we're also focused on what are those equity investments that we also want to make alongside our business as it grows. And so, you know, our business has obviously a P&L, revenue and profit, but it also has a balance sheet whereby we'll take equity positions and we'll grow, you know, with our clients as they grow enterprise value. And so that's the way we're kind of looking at it from this stage. But again, you know, you ask anyone sort of 6, 9, 12 months into a new business, kind of, where's this going to be in 3, 5, 7, 10 years? We got some rough parameters, but this thing's going to zig and zag multiple times as we continue to respond to market trends and market needs and obviously our clients' aspirations. So we're pretty excited. We got some tram lines, but that will morph and change.
Just for background context, I thought we'd just briefly touch on your history and experiences with PwC. I think you were there for about 30 odd years, obviously rising to Chief Executive Officer in 2012. When you're appointed to that CEO position, where do you start?
I think where all people start is kind of listening, learning, engaging. Even though I had been in a number of roles within PwC and knew the organisation quite well, until you sort of land in the chair, you really don't fully understand the sort of chessboard that you're dealing with. And so my encouragement sort of for anybody going into a CEO role, whether they're coming from within the organisation or outside the organisation, is to just take a breath and pause and engage and listen and learn. And you know, that's also what I've done here, even with a blank sheet of paper. You want to make some moves and you need to make some moves, but you can't make all the moves all at once. And so pick those 2, 3, 4 big decisions, make those swiftly, but then pause and continue to learn and reflect and grow. And so get a better understanding, be patient, make some decisions quickly though, to stamp your sort of philosophy and signal to the organisation once you've got the fact base and you feel good about it, but don't try and do everything all at once, because you'll lose you'll lose the people, and you want to build the trust with the people and build the fellowship of the people for move number 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc.
I read that one of the first initiatives that you undertook was really to flatten the organisational structure of the business to make it less hierarchical, and also to empower staff to have interests outside of work. Is that something that you've carried over to Sayers Group? You want to have a flat management structure, so to speak?
I'm just a firm believer that bureaucracies or cultures and sort of that the middle of any organisation can really cause harm to an organisation. Because it becomes immovable, and clients and people, staff, you know, they want flatness. They want empowerment. They want entrepreneurialism. They want to be able to touch and feel what you're doing with them, not touch and feel, but then have layer and then another layer and then another layer, and then kind of, you know, not be able to really engage fulsomely and get the advice and perspective from the most experienced people in the organisation. And so, you know, my philosophy here is to just keep it real, keep it grounded, feet on the ground. You know, I deal with clients every day. I'm dealing with associates. I'm dealing with partners and helping our clients fulfil their aspirations. And I get a real feel of, you know, the organisation really is like, not what somebody wants to manage, the manager who wants to manage the manager who wants to manage me. Now, obviously, the more you grow, the harder that gets, and you've just got to find ways to structurally keep it very real and keep it very grounded and keep it very, you know, non-BS-y, just genuine and authentic, and being able to have those real conversations with cut through rather than the superficiality that often goes with layers.
In terms of trying to attract new staff, are you finding it relatively easy to attract new staff and bring them in from other firms? Obviously, there's a lot of talk at the moment about pay increases, 10%, you know, per annum pay increases at some legal firms. Are you finding it, you know, easy to bring staff over, or are you having to convince them to come over, or is competition for labour really tight at the moment?
Look, we've been really blessed, and so I think it's because we're trying to position ourselves and live and breathe kind of in a different new quo way. You know, we're restless against the status quo, right? We're restless, and we want to shake it and see what can change, because we think there's a better way to accelerate business growth, business value, business aspiration than kind of the way in which a lot of clients are served today. And so if you've got a bit of fire in the belly and you want to go to a blank sheet of paper and try and wrestle the status quo, you know, we're perfect. We're perfect for that. And I think through the pandemic, you know, it's interesting, when we first went into it, I thought, okay, well, does that mean the psychology will be people will want to hang on to security and the comfort of kind of a big global organisation or a big local organisation? What's actually played out for us is that hasn't been the case, and those people that have kind of the energy and the desire and the sort of intestinal fortitude to get on the pitch and really try and drive something, they've really jumped at a proposition like we've got. But we're not for everyone, and that's cool. We want those people, and we'll only bring on those people that keep it real, genuine, feet on the ground, good people, no BS, and want to create something special.
There's been a lot of talk about whether businesses will return to traditional CBDs and then whether their staff will actually return to the physical office themselves. What are you finding in terms of your staff? Are you looking at flexible working arrangements? Are they happy? Do they want to come back into the city, back into this office here full time? Or do you think it'll be sort of a 2 or 3 days a week in the office and then the other day or two at home?
Look, I think it'll, like anything, we've gone from kind of, I don't want to say everybody in the city, but most organisations, there was a culture of you come to the city or you come to wherever head office is to work. You're office based. The pandemic hit, and it's gone to the other end of the spectrum. We're all going to be at home and try the best that we can at home to do what we need to do. And right here, right now, I think it's kind of swinging back to the middle. And I think it will kind of find a natural equilibrium somewhere in the middle. I think most organisations will be encouraging their people for cultural reasons, relationship reasons, collaboration reasons, that they need to be in the office with their peers for some period of time through the week. But then for other periods of time, you can work from home, you can work from the client site, you can work wherever it may be remotely from a flexibility perspective. So I think it'll find its natural sort of equilibrium, I think, over the next 6 months or so. I think also it's to just layer something on there as well. Like, I know here in Victoria, the state government is trying to encourage people back to the city because there's so many businesses here in the CBD that have done it incredibly difficult through this period of time, and for them to kind of rebound as quickly as they can rebound, they need people back in the city. And so I think there's also kind of an overriding responsibility to support those small coffee shops and small restaurants and so on and so forth that make this city a great city, to also just encourage your people, come back into the city 2 or 3 days a week, spend some money with the local businesses, and that will all be helpful to get this country going again.
You've been very generous with your time, so just a couple of quick questions to finish, general interest questions, starting off with, of course, the Carlton Football Club. I can't let you get away with an interview without talking about that. Recently appointed president, as we know. Where's the club at now, and where do you want to see it this time next year and then the year beyond that?
Yeah, look, so I think I've been in the chair maybe 2 months now. We've put through a number of changes. We've got ourselves a new coach and a new set of assistant coaches. We've got ourselves a new CEO. We've got ourselves a new board because we've changed half of the board at the Carlton Football Club. And so as far as kind of off-field changes that have been made over the last 30 days or so, feeling really, really good. The women's team is all set to go in January, and we're hopeful and optimistic that they'll have a great season. And then the men's team will all be back for pre-season training later in November. And so right here, right now, I feel really, really good about the new people that have come to the club. The players are certainly very motivated and excited. And now we just need to work our tails off and make sure that when the season comes around for the women and also for the men, that we're hungry and fit and ready to go.
You're also extremely passionate about your wife's charity, the Inclusion Foundation. Take me through the origins of the charity and then your involvement within it.
Yeah, so the Inclusion Foundation is a charity that works with young kids and young adults with Down syndrome. And so Kate and my second daughter, Ali, was born with Down syndrome. And like any parent, when you kind of first get told that, it's a difficult period to really understand what is Down syndrome and what can you do as a parent to make sure that your child gets all of the opportunities that they can to get on and live a incredibly meaningful and fulfilled life. And so Kate founded a charity which started off dance and fitness for young kids and young adults with Down syndrome. Kids and adults with Down syndrome express a lot of joy and express a lot of fun through dance. And so it's a great opportunity for them to build not only physical skills and physical health, but also confidence and personality skills. And so that's been running for over a decade now and has just seen awesome results. 250 to 300 kids and young adults across Victoria participating in dance classes weekly, a ton of awesome volunteers that make that happen. And you know, that has just been an amazing thing for so many individuals and so many families. And then over the last 12 to 18 months, with the help of the federal government and also the Victorian government and a number of amazing businesses here in Victoria, Kate has set up a university bridging course because, like you and I, if you can't find meaningful work or meaningful employment, then your self-esteem takes a battering and your purpose in life takes a battering, and then depression and everything else kind of kicks in. And so Australia unfortunately has like one of the worst employment statistics for people with disabilities. Not just Down syndrome, but disabilities more broadly, whether that be physical disabilities or whether it be intellectual disabilities. And so with the help of Torrens University, a bridging course has been set up. It's a 2-year course, and you go to class, you go to university, and you are taught a whole slew of different skills to be able to find meaningful employment at the end of that 2-year period. What's beautiful about what Kate and the charity's done is that it's been backed by a number of businesses that have co-developed the curriculum such that it's meaningful enough to help them to build the skills and also the confidences to get the job. And they've also provided work experience opportunities every 3 months such that these kids do some learning and then pop out into the employment workplace, do the work experience, pop back in, do another period, pop back out. And so by the time they've gone through the 2-year period, they really understand that job in a meaningful way and then can leave the university and go and take up full-time employment at that business, fulfilling that role. And so it's a bridging course to really provide a pathway that's so important for anybody as far as purpose and meaning in life.
Incredible achievement by your wife, Kate.
Yeah, she's the rock star.
And I know it's one of the many causes that you're passionate about. I thought we'd close out our discussion with, what does it take to be successful? I think I read that you were a partner of PwC at age 29, which is unheard of these days. Then you were made national partner, then you became CEO, the youngest ever CEO in the history of the business, and now you've got your own business in Sayers Group. What are the key lessons or key pieces of advice that you could pass on?
There's probably a couple. One is it is a lot about luck. Like, you can make decisions and you can try your hardest to do certain things, but you also do need to kind of get lucky. And when I look back on my career, I've been quite lucky with those people that have mentored and sponsored me. I've been quite lucky in that I sort of worked in those industries that were growing, and so you know you got kind of greater opportunities and acceleration through your development. And so I think there is a lot of luck with whatever you do in life, but I would also call out sponsorship and mentorship and being helped to develop and grow as a person and as a professional. I'd also call out have a crack. Like, a lot of people are often fearful of changing careers or taking that opportunity or sort of mixing it up. If you don't take a crack, you'll never know. And so, you know, I'd really encourage people to back themselves, and life isn't a straight line. And my career is, you know, at PwC, I had so many different roles and opportunities and experiences, of which from time to time I was told, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. But at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that happens? Like, you stuff it up, you scrape your knees, you learn, and you go again. You know what I mean? So I just encourage people to try something different and back themselves, or else oftentimes we put this ceiling or box around ourselves that I can only do this, or I can only do that, or that's as far as I'm going to go. That's just not right. Humans have amazing ability to find other skills and other competencies. And probably the third one is, and they're all kind of connected, the third one is, you know, surround yourself with better people than yourself. You know, like, each of us has strengths, each of us has weaknesses. Build your teams that are complementary to your skills. You don't want a whole mini-me sort of approach to things. Get different cats with you that are arguably smarter, more emotionally aware, more relationship savvy, etc., and really unleash them and get them to voice and express themselves without fear or favour, such that you have a very dynamic sort of mantra and operating model as a team. It's not about you, it's about the team and about the broader organisation. So probably luck, have a crack, and put better people than yourself around you.
Great note to finish on. Luke Sayers, AM, pleasure speaking with you this morning, and look forward to seeing the continual growth of the Sayers Group business into the future.
Thank you very much.